everyone, and welcome to YarnGasm. I'm Kristen, and this is episode 167. If you are a returning viewer, thanks so much for coming back, and if you are a new viewer, thanks so much for checking out my podcast. I'm so excited that you decided to spend a little bit of your day chatting about knitting, spinning, and hand-dyeing yarn with me, as that's what this podcast is about. So it is Thursday afternoon. It's just 12 o'clock right now. So yeah, I thought I would record a little podcast and just chat about Rhinebeck, what I've been working on, and some finished objects and sewing and all that awesome stuff that I like to talk about on the show. So I guess I will dive right into Rhinebeck stuff because that's coming up in a week. So, and I am so excited, you guys. Rhinebeck is going to be not this coming weekend, but the weekend after. So October 16th and 17th. I could be totally wrong. I'm looking at my show notes. Yes, it's October 16th through the 18th. So Friday through Sunday. And I will be heading up with some friends. We are going to spend Friday night and Saturday night there. We're going to go to the Indie Untangled Trunk Show, which is in Kingston, New York, not too far from the Dutchess County Fairgrounds. So I will post more of that in the show notes, where you can find more information about that, because me, Maria from the Subway Knits podcast, and Laura from the Dyer's Notebook podcast will be having a podcaster meetup at the Trunk Show, and we will be there from about I want to say like 6 o'clock until the end. So we're really excited to meet with you guys, for viewers who watch the show that are going to be able to make it. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait. I will have buttons, like I said, some mini skeins to hand out. So yeah, I really can't wait. And then the next day, if you're not going to be able to make the Trunk Show, definitely come. Well, obviously you're going to be at, if you're going to Rhinebeck, you're going to Rhinebeck. But yes, on Saturday at 1 o'clock on the hill where the Ravelry meetup usually happens, we will be having another podcaster meetup with everybody anyone that podcasts that's going to Rhinebeck is going to be there. So apparently there's a thread for this, and I just saw a long list of podcasters that are going to be there. So it's going to be pretty freaking awesome. So I cannot wait for that. So like I said, I'm going to be staying with a couple of friends. So it just should be a really, really fun time. This is the first time that I'm not going with Dennis. I've been going to Rhinebeck for years, ever since me and Dennis started dating, which feels like forever. So, but yeah, I'm a little sad that he's not going to be joining me this time, but I know that I'm just gonna have a blast with my friends, because it's gonna be all knitting all the time. It's like Disney World for me, basically. So yeah, I'm super excited. So I guess I will get on to knitting stuff. I'm drinking some lovely cold season tea by Yogi. I don't have a cold or anything, but I do feel like with the change of weather, I feel a little congested. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, just a little groggy. So I was kind of looking for my favorite is Yogi's Breathe Easy. I just like the flavor of that, and it definitely like clears up my throat, but I happen to run out of it. So I've got to stock up more on that, and I just kind of settled for this stuff, which is, there's a little bit of licorice in here, so, it's right on point. Black pepper, cinnamon bark, lemongrass, cardamom seed, ginger. There's a little bit of everything in here. And I am drinking out of my really pretty teacup that Tanya gifted to me at the Gauge Intention Trunk Show. So I wanted to show that off on the podcast again. I really, really love this. Thank you again, Tanya, who, by the way, has started her very own podcast. I keep wanting to mention this every episode for the past couple of weeks, but I think I start podcasting going and thinking I'm going to work it into whatever I'm talking about, but it never ends up happening. But I wanted to make sure that I mentioned it this week. Tanya has started her very own knitting podcast. I think she's about 2 or 3 episodes in, and she's really good. I'm so excited for her. It's called the Knitting Spring Podcast. So, give it check it out. She's lovely. works on a lot of things. Like she's very proficient with knitting sweaters, and she's got a haul like you would not believe. So every time I watch one of her episodes, she's always got something new to show off, and makes me want to just spend all my money on this yarn. So anyway, check her out. Again, it's called the Knitting Spring Podcast. And while I'm at it, I want to mention a couple of other podcasts that I've been meaning to talk about that I've been watching that are fairly new. And I just never end up talking about them, and I feel horrible. But this episode, I'm going to be talking about them. So the other one that I wanted to talk about is the Tiny Paper Foxes podcast with Jenny, which is a really awesome podcast. Jenny also stopped by the Gauge and Tension Trunk Show when I was vending there. Really awesome person. Like between her and Tanya, we just had the best conversation when they came, and I'm so excited that they both branched out and started their very own podcast. But yeah, check out the Tiny Paper Foxes podcast with Jenny. Her setup is amazing. She definitely has a lot of help from her husband, who's a professional photographer. So he set up everything with the lights, so it looks very, very well. It's incredibly well produced, and she's very thorough, and she's epic when it comes to knitting. Again, sweaters. I think this year, just a side note, is going to be the year of the sweater for me, because I definitely do not knit enough sweaters, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But Jenny definitely has a great aesthetic when it comes to patterns and choosing patterns and corresponding yarns, and she definitely has, a very excellent presence when she speaks. And one thing that I really enjoy about her podcast is she has a special photography segment at the end of every episode, or she's going to try and have a special segment at the end of every episode, where she's joined by her husband, who I mentioned is a photographer, and answering questions about photography. Because us as knitters, when we finish projects or want to share what we're working on, we like sharing photos of it. And I think it's a really great segment, to help us improve our photography when it comes to shooting our whips and our FOs, because we want to show off the best part of them. So I definitely check that out as well. And I just started watching the Kill to Craft podcast with Vanessa. So it's another great podcast. She has a great personality. I believe she's got a Scottish accent. I could be wrong, terribly mistaken, but she's got a lovely accent, and I love what she works on. To be honest, I've only watched half of one episode because I just started watching it, but I can already tell I'm going to love it. Or you can tell I love it. So definitely check those out. Again, it's the Knitting Spring podcast with Tanya, the Tiny Paper Foxes podcast with Jenny, and the Kill to Craft podcast with Vanessa. And of course, I will post links to those in the show notes, which I've been a little lazy about. Not lazy, there's not enough hours in the day for me to actually follow through on this. But I'm going to try to be good this week and put some show notes in there. Okay, on to finished objects, and you can already tell I'm wearing it. I finished knitting my Rhinebeck sweater, you guys. It's done. This is the Featherweight cardigan, a paid pattern by Hannah Fettig. It's been floating around, or not floating around. This pattern has been around for quite a while. It's been on my queue for years, and I finally got around to knitting it, and I could not be more pleased with it. This is my hand-dyed yarn that I knitted out of on my Halo Alpaca base, which is 60% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and 20% superfine alpaca. So it's super fuzzy, not super fuzzy, super soft, has a very lovely, generous halo to it. I don't know if you can see. And it's the colorway is Gashly Crumb, my Edward Gorey tribute colorway, if you will. So I could not be more smitten with this FO. You have no idea, guys. And I'm excited that I finally have a Rhinebeck sweater. I will admit, I wasn't going to go in with a Rhinebeck sweater, and I was like, all right, I'm going to cast this on. We'll see where I get. We'll see how far I get. And I just put pedal to the metal and was totally, for the most part, monogamous with knitting this. And it is such a lovely pattern. And yeah, I gave myself extra long sleeves because I have a very I have a habit of doing this with my sweaters. I love doing this. If I don't have pockets, I need something to do with my hands. So this is what I end up doing. Yeah, I don't know if I should stand up. I don't want to risk knocking down the camera, but just so you can see how long it is. So not super long. It kind of goes 3 inches below my waist. So if I can stand up like that. Yeah, so it fits very well. I knit the smallest size, which I believe is a size 32 or 33. Again, I'm very tiny, so not much to cover up, if that makes any sense. The one thing I would do, again, if I were to knit the sweater a second time, is I would add more stitches to the sleeve count, because they are quite snug. There's no ease in here whatsoever, and I was a little scared while I was knitting this because they looked very thin, but I knew because it's a superwash merino, it'll stretch, but not so much lengthwise. As Molly from the Homespun House mentioned to me, she goes, it'll stretch, but it won't, like widthwise. It'll stretch lengthwise, but it won't stretch widthwise so much. But thankfully, it stretched a little bit, so it's not tight on me at all. Like, I get a lot of movement in there. But yeah, next time around, I'm going to add a couple of stitches, maybe 10, no, not 10 more, maybe 8 more stitches, just to get a little bit of room in there, if you will. So, but yeah, what else did I want to say about this? Super warm, the alpaca. So, if it's a little chilly at Rhinebeck, which it's very, I have to say, the weather when it comes to Rhinebeck is very iffy. I remember one year it was 80 degrees, and then the last year it was like 50 degrees. It's October, and on the East Coast, the weather during this time is very like up and down. So you really have to keep an eye on the weather. But regardless, this will be really nice if it's a nice light breezy day, or if it's a little chilly out. This will definitely keep me warm with, if I bring a shawl with me to cover my neck. So I'm very happy with this, and I could totally see why a lot of you knit more than one featherweight cardigan, because it's pretty not mindless, but autopilot knitting. You don't have to think too much on it. You just go, and it's very versatile. You can switch it up, add some patterns. And a lot of you who are joining in with the Countdown to Winter Featherweight Cal are putting your own variations on it, which is amazing. I went into the thread during the week, and I saw some of you were doing stripes, and somebody is actually doing color work, which is mind-blowing. To take a featherweight and use it as a template and just put their own color work spin on it is pretty epic. So I'm just, yeah, it's great, you guys. So, but yes, the Featherweight Cal is still going on. There is a chatter group and a non-chatter group to win prizes when I close the thread. So it's kicked off at the beginning of the first day of fall, which was September 23rd, and then it's going to end the first day of winter. So I will close the thread on December 22nd and draw winners for prizes. So yay, that's so exciting. So yeah, I could definitely see myself knitting another one of these. Not in the near future, because I have another sweater planned, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, it's such a great pattern. I have a Rhinebeck sweater. Yes, mission accomplished. And it's been a while since I would have to say this is the first cardigan I am actually proud of, and it actually fits me correctly. I mean, yeah, so I'm very proud of myself. So yeah, but that is kind of kicking me in the butt to knit more sweaters, or it's giving me more confidence to want to cast on more sweaters. And I think next year, January 2016, is going to be the year of sweaters for me. I'm going to just set a goal for myself, a knitting goal, and try and knit 3 sweaters. I think that's a fair number. I'm definitely not going to knit 12 sweaters. I know there's some of you out there who do the 12 sweater challenge, who crank out a sweater a month. I salute you, but there's no way. Knowing myself, I think I'm going to do 3. 3 is fair, I think. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, as for other FOs, it's actually hanging on my wall. Let me go get it. I totally forgot to take this down from my wall because on my wall I have little pegs for my sock blockers. So they just hang there and I put whatever socks I have working in progress on them. But yeah, I finished one sock of my blueberry waffle socks, and these are on, or this is knit on Query Fibers in her Fairy Dust colorway. So yeah, I just did a basic 1x1 ribbing top down, cuff down, I should say, with the blueberry waffle pattern, and then a fish lips kiss heel. You can see that, and then just a Kitchener stitch toe. So my usual, method of knitting socks: cuff down, toe up. Cuff down, Kitchener stitch toe. And yeah, I switched on to the fish lips kiss heel. I feel like the past two socks I knit were my heel flap turned heel method, my go-to favorite socks pattern. But this time I just felt like doing a fish lips kiss heel because it's been a while, so why not? So really enjoyable pattern. It's free. Check it out. And I really like it because, if you're tired of knitting plain vanilla socks, this is a nice, easy autopilot switch up, in my opinion. And a lot of people are knitting these now, so I kind of caught the bug of the blueberry waffle socks and had to cast on. So really enjoying these. Yeah, so I think that is it for what is off my needles. Let me take a sip of my delicious tea. Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about, this is technically a finished object. Swatches are a finished object, right? I think they are. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I swatched for my stonecutter pullover that I'm going to be knitting. So this is out of Quince & Co. Is it Turn? I believe it's Turn. Yes, I believe it's, Quince & Co. Turn, which is a 4-ply worsted weight yarn in the Damson colorway, which purplish dark gray is just, it spoke to me, and I just had to, I saw it and I'm like, yes, that has to be my stonecutter, which is a pattern by Michelle Wong. I will try and post a photo of it here so you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to cast that on very soon, but I was watching the Fawn Knits podcast with Lara. If you don't watch it, another great podcast you should check out. She's based in Canada and she has her own Etsy shop and she makes these really awesome tree prints and project bags, really fun. But yeah, I was watching her podcast and she mentioned how she wanted to cast one on as well. And kind of mentioned that, she was thinking about doing the same colorway and yarn, which I laughed. I thought that was awesome. And I reached out to her. I said, hey, we both have podcasts. Why don't we co-host a knit along? We'll do a stonecutter knit along. And she loved the idea. And yeah, it's happening. We are co-hosting a stonecutter pullover knit along. So we are keeping things very casual because it is by no means a easy pattern, I would say. I would mark it up there as pretty advanced. I'm a little frightened of casting on, but I know I can do it. I know if I stick to my guns, I can do it. But yes, we're keeping, as I mentioned, we're keeping it very casual. No official start date, but we are going to obviously draw close our respective threads in our Ravelry groups at a deadline date. So we are thinking new sweater, new year, new sweater. So from whenever you want to cast on, we are marking the deadline as January 1st, 2016. And we will close our threads and draw prizes. But as I mentioned, it's by no means an easy pattern. So, we'll touch base with each other and see where everyone who's participating is. And if it looks like everyone or, most people need a little bit more time, we'll extend the deadline. But that's the theme that we're sticking to right now. So after I finish uploading this podcast, I will open a thread. And yes, you can double dip. I'm sure next time Laura records, she'll do the same. We're both going to open a thread in our Ravelry group. So feel free to join in either one or both. And double dipping is totally cool. So this is going to be really fun and I cannot wait. And I'm a little hot right now because my sweater, it's actually not that chilly out right now. And I, obviously put the sweater on to show off to you guys, but it's a little toasty now. But anyway, what was I going to say? So that is exciting. I should probably talk about the swatch, right? So yeah, I did the swatch, the recommended needle size, and it's the gauge recommended that you use US size 8 needles to get a 4x4 inch square. And as I mentioned, this is a 1.5 inches over. So 5.5 inches, it's a 5.5 inch square. So I'm gonna drop down maybe like 2 needle sizes, although maybe just 1 needle size, because I do enjoy a nice oversized cozy sweater. So maybe I will go that route. I don't know. Size 6 needles for worsted seems a little tight. Maybe I'll just do 7. I'll drop down to a size 7 and see how that goes. So yeah, that's where I am with that. And then, in my lavender loon bag. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot. I'll talk about this in a little bit after I'm done talking about this. Lavender Loon, or Samantha, in her project bag, I'm housing my quadri hat, another pattern by Michelle Wong, which I started knitting for Dennis out of Joel Draper Make Stuff yarn, out of her Empire Mini yarn in the Loam colorway, which is really rich chocolate brown. So you can tell I've made a lot of progress on it since last time, but I will be honest, I'm not happy with it. It doesn't, as I mentioned, it feels very rustic. It's not soft. It's very dense. This thing could stand up on its own from the bottom, but as I mentioned, I went through several needle transitions or changes, because at first I was knitting on metal DPNs, and then I switched to carbons, and then finally I was happy with bamboos, because the other needles were just destroying my hands. Like, I felt like my bones were gonna break if I just kept knitting with the other needles, and finally the bamboos worked out. The yarn kind of glides over them a little easier. But of course, my gauge got totally thrown off. So it's really tight down here, and then more loose up here. So I am contemplating frogging back. Yeah, I'm really not pleased with the way it's turning out. And I know I could find a much softer yarn, a much warmer yarn. Like, the yarn is beautiful. I love Jill Draper's stuff, but I feel like the yarn and the pattern do not go hand in hand. So I may be frogging this, which is really unfortunate. But anyway, it's a lot of knitting time too that went into it, I feel like. I don't know, maybe not that much. I feel like I spent 3 hours on this total, picking it up and putting it down. But lovely pattern, and I definitely want to choose just a different type of yarn for this project. So, but yeah, so this really has been a year of starting and stopping projects, or so many false starts of projects, I feel like. And I don't know why that is. I think I definitely have a case of knitter ADD, where I quickly, like, if it doesn't hold my attention, I definitely lose interest in a pattern. So, but that's not, like, some projects I put aside because of the Rhinebeck sweater. I wanted to focus on that. But there have definitely been a lot of projects where I've had false starts and just kind of let them fall to the wayside. And I definitely don't want that to happen next year. So yeah, I mean, if I do have some goals for the new year, it's definitely going to be a year of sweater knitting and no more false starts, or less false starts. Because yeah, I really don't like. I don't like when that happens. I don't think anyone likes when that happens, but I just feel like it's been rather excessive this year. As again, Molly from A Homespun House pointed out, because we chat, and she mentioned it to me, because it just really sucks that you've had all these false starts, and I'm like, yeah, it does, it really does, and I want to have more finished objects, you guys. So, and I think I'm getting better. I am definitely getting better. I noticed I'm having, like, these past few weeks, you guys, I feel like I just have had so much more finished objects and stuff that I've been churning out. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's just a phase. We'll see. But anyway, yes. But while I'm on the topic of Samantha, aka Lavender Loon on Ravelry, she has also started dyeing yarn, but she's been doing a lot of natural dyeing, which is a process that I am super curious about, that I definitely want to try my hand at some point, because, you know, obviously I don't use, when I dye yarn, I don't use natural dyes. I use acid dyes because I love the color. I love all the crazy colors and combinations, but I do really appreciate natural dyes because it's amazing some of the colors that you can get out of some natural things, for which I will show you right now. Sam was so awesome. She's and kind. She sent me some yarn that she hand dyed out of some really interesting things. So this one she sent for me. I don't even know if you can see that. That's about very accurate. But here's her logo, Lavender Loon Yarn Company, which I love it. It's very natural, as you know, is her thing. It looks great. This is dyed, this is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, dyed with red cabbage. And it looks gray. The camera is not doing this justice right now, but if you look super close, I think only like in person you can see this, but you can see subtle undertones of purple, which I really, really love. And this is fingering weight yarn. So isn't that amazing? Just like this really rich, kind of warm gray. So thank you, Samantha. And this one she sent for you guys as a giveaway for the featherweight cal. So this, if you cannot believe, is dyed with walnuts. And this is all locally spun yarn that's very close to her. So the fiber is mohair and it's dyed with walnut and it's 140 yards, but it's so soft and airy and lofty, I would say. But I can't believe that walnut, well, I can. It looks like a walnut color, but it's amazing to me how you can get color like this with certain things. You know, you can dye with marigolds, you can dye with onion, you can dye with just about anything. So yeah, I think one of my friends was telling me about a class that's coming up, so I might have to get in on that. It just seems so fascinating. And yeah, so thank you again, Samantha. I, of course, will post a link to that in the show notes. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Yeah, so, okay, what else? What else do I have to show you? So now that my my project bag, which was housing my featherweight cardigan, is free, I had to give it a new occupant. So as I mentioned last week, Laura from the Dyer's Notebook and Jinx Yarn, she's hosting a Jinx Yarn Socktober knit along, because guys, it's October and that means it's Socktober, and I had to cast on a pair. As I mentioned, I've been hoarding a lot of Jinx yarn in my yarn fortress, so I had to cast these on. And look how glittery that is. This is on her glitz base in her Lantern Festival colorway, which I fell in love with immediately. And you get lots of flashing in there, but it's this really rich reddish dark brown, and then these really cool like flame shades, but not, I always want to say it's like very autumnal, like oranges, deep reds, beige, not beige, brown, just, you know, very, it's super autumnal. You cannot look at this and not think of autumn. But here it is in the cake, and they do look like lanterns or a festival at night with the glitter, just so pretty. And I am actually knitting twinsies with her husband Jose. If you watch her last episode, she did a podcast with her husband who just started knitting. She's teaching him how to knit a Beans the cat, and he's using the same colorway as me. So I actually cast these on while I was watching. I'm like, yay, we're twinsies. So that was a really cool episode, and I hope, Laura, if you're watching this, that Jose continues to knit, and I cannot wait to see his Beans the cat. And yes, you guys should do more episodes together because they're super fun. And someone just texted me. But yeah, so those have been fun, and I am actually using DPNs. These are my, I don't mind using, these are my favorite DPNs to knit socks on. They're Carbons, US 1.5s. So I really enjoy knitting. If I have to use DPNs, these are the ones that I use. So yeah, I think that is it for what's on my needles. So I guess I'll move along to spinning, because I've been doing a little bit of spinning. I just felt like drop spindling one day, and I wanted to use my Spanish peacock spindle, and there was still some fiber on it, and I wanted to get that off as well because it's so pretty and it's ridiculous how long it's been on my spindle for. It was a fuzzling that I got from Fondant Fibers, and here it is. I have no idea what the fiber content is, but it's super fuzzy and just super lofty as well. It might be mohair. It might be, oh goodness, what's that other one? The one that's super coarse, and I have a braid of it that I got from Into the World last Rhinebeck, and it's right there. I just don't want to get up and look at it because then my whole setup will tip over. But anyway, yes, it's just very fuzzy, but it's got it's whites, creams, golds, peaches, lots of peach, some flecks of green in there. So yeah, and I've been watching, another podcast that I've been watching a lot is the Made with Carlene G podcast. And Carlene is notorious. She's like the queen of spinning fuzzlings and batlings and mini tiny bumps on her spindle and just creating these beautiful projects with them, like shawls. I know she's knitting the Fringe with Benefits, all spun out of little bumps of fiber and fuzzlings, which is really inspiring to me. So I think that's kind of what inspired me to pick up my drop spindle again and get this off the spindle and then go into something else, because I have a bunch of little batlings from Hobbledehoy that I did rescue from Kim of the Craft Stash podcast before she moved. She did a major de-stash, and I saved these really pretty C-tone colorways, or little, I don't have them with me, they're in my yarn fortress like they always are. But yeah, I picked up this really cool peacock blue, and I've just been kind of going at it. And I really like the idea, this is how much I have left, like some string inside. I really like the idea of spinning little tiny fiber bumps because, again, I have ADD when it comes to creativity. My attention definitely goes off, like if there's not enough stimulation there. So I should probably have this looked into. I don't know if there's a thing for that, for knitters, what it's called, but anyway, I'm going with knitter ADD or spinning ADD. So I like the fact that these are really quick to spin up, and then you can go on to a totally new color, and it just keeps things fresh. And so yeah, I have a whole bunch of these little batlings in C-tone colors. So I have like a light blue, I have a lavender periwinkle, and then I have like a sand brown and a deep dark brown. What else do I have? I think there's a purple in there, but I see these colors together. I'm like, that would be a cool project to combine all these little hand-spun minis out of. So yeah, I've just been having fun with that a little bit, and I've not worked on my my hand-spun socks, my summer sock spackle. That is still languishing a little bit. So yeah. But anyway, I'm just happy that I'm getting a little spinning done because I've been neglecting it for way too long. It's a little ridiculous, but yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to sewing. As you know, I have plans to sew a second Anna dress. The dress that I was wearing last episode was a dress by a company called By Hand London. They create sewing patterns, and this one that I sewed is called the Anna dress, and I fell in love head over heels with this pattern. I loved it so much. It was so easy for me to put together and fits so well that I want to create another one to go with my Rhinebeck sweater. So I showed this fabric to you last time, and this was going to be my first Anna dress, the one that I was first going to sew, but I fell in love with the other one first, but then I definitely wanted to come back and make it out of this. So this is Downton Abbey fabric, actually. I think I got this on fabric.com, but it's, let me see. It's by Andover Fabrics, Lord and Lady Grantham. But yes, it was designed, the pattern is based on or inspired by Downton Abbey, or it's their line of Downton Abbey fabric. I don't know. But yes, it's not tweed, but it's a tweed print. And I think it'll go very well with this. Maybe a little too busy, but I don't think too busy. I think it'll, it's a subtle pattern. it's like a Monet, up close, or with Seurat painting. Up close it looks like a mess, but from far away it kind of just blends into each other. Pointillism, that's the term I'm looking for. But yes, Seurat was a pointillist, and Van Gogh, yes, all dots. Anyway, so that I'm going to try and bang out this weekend, because time is getting smaller. Like my time frame for getting everything ready for Rhinebeck is getting smaller and smaller, and trying to get so much done. So yeah, that is my sewing plan, and I want to sew a Halloween costume for myself. If I forget, I think I mentioned it on the show. I wanted to go, or I have grand plans to sew myself a costume from the Death Becomes Her exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. Last year they had an exhibit on 100 years of mourning. So there's a period of time where a lot of people wore mourning clothes, as in, they're lamenting for a loved one who's passed. And they wore a lot of black for a long period of time, and they had a whole fashion exhibit on this. And there's this one dress that I fell in love with. And when I saw it last October, I said that it's going to be my Halloween costume. And I'm still thinking about it today, so I kind of want to make it happen. I found the pattern online. This is going to require some franken piecing, but it looks fairly doable. I may have to enlist the help of my friend again, who helped me create my Cersei costume last year. So, but I think I can make it happen. We'll see if I even have time, but that's my pipe dream, to make that happen. And it's going to take a lot of arm twisting to get Dennis to dress up, because I don't think he's into Halloween as much as I am into Halloween. Halloween is my holiday. You know how everyone has like their favorite holiday? Halloween is my holiday. This is the one I go crazy for, and I wish I would dress up more. I remember a couple years ago, there was just not enough time because, working full time and coming up with clever costumes was kind of ridiculous. But now I just want to make it happen. So I'm probably babbling, but yeah, I really, really love Halloween. So I have to make this happen now. It's going to happen. So anyway, hold me to that. Okay, now I'm just rambling. So I'm going to move on to Ask Away, because I promised you guys an Ask Away segment last time. Did not have enough time. Again, it escapes me. But this week, I am making time for Ask Away. So Lavender Loon, who I mentioned before, left a question in the Ask Away thread. She says, "Hey Kristen, I have a question about figuring out what size to pick when starting knitting a pattern for a sweater or garment. For one that doesn't mention anything about ease. For instance, say my bust is 40 and a half inches and the sizes listed are 40 inches or 44. So she's saying like if her bust is a 40 and a half inch bust, but the only size available is either a 40 inch or 44 inch bust. She kind of falls in between there. So she wants to know like which pattern she should choose, like go up or down. So she goes, which should I do for my gauge? What should I do if my gauge is right on? So basically, should I add a couple of inches to my bust size or to allow for some room, or do pattern writers consider this when writing a pattern and you should choose closest to your bust size? Maybe share how you go about picking which size you do. Thanks. Okay. So normally when this happens and I choose a pattern, I usually go up a size. I don't mind a little ease in my sweaters, but some people appreciate a little bit of, just a little fitting. But yes, the way I do it, I just go up a size. But if it seems too roomy, I might go down a needle size just to, take the gauge down a little bit to shrink it down. But you could go the way of modding things. I know there are a lot of books out there. I am not an expert on modifications by any means. I would love to learn more about it. I should probably take a class. I'm sure there are lots of craftsy classes out there about that. I'm sure I've seen one. But they show you how to mod patterns to get the fit that you want. So yes, you can increase stitches. You can add darts, which is something I've never had to do because, again, itty bitty titty committee. Excellent, right? Yeah. So Yeah, and there are some patterns that I certainly cannot do. I mean, I'm sure if I knew how to modify them, I would. Like a lot of the, I'm sure like a lot of the off the shoulder patterns, or I could modify them to fit me better. But I think the most modifying that I've ever done is to take in the sides. That's an easy fix. Just to kind of take it to decrease around the waist. If a pattern is too big, you can always do that and try it on as you're knitting it to see how it fits. But that would be my advice. Definitely, I'm sure there are a lot of YouTube tutorials if you look it up on how to like which size to go for if you fall in between the size that the pattern offers, or reach out to the designer. I don't see any harm in doing that if you have a question. I'm sure they're way better at mathing than I am. So, don't be shy. Reach out to them. See, the worst that can happen is you don't get a response. I don't know. But definitely I hope that helps, and, definitely give those options a try. So I hope that helps you, Sam. The next one is from That Canadian Girl. We do have any suggestions of shawls with knitted on edging like your verdure shawl? I really enjoyed the one lonely sideways knit on edging shawl I've done, but the verdure shawl itself doesn't quite grab me, so I'm looking for some ideas. Rav doesn't make searching for these that easy. Yeah, I have to agree, because I did a search myself for some, applied borders, as they're called, which are knit perpendicular to the body of the shawl. So you knit the body, be it like a triangle or a crescent shape, and then you knit the edge perpendicular to the crescent shape. So it goes, here's your crescent, and then you knit along that edge, if that makes any sense. But the patterns that I would recommend are Maria Monska's lattice shawl, which is a triangular shawl with an applied border. And then there's also the Crystal Bay shawl that I mentioned last week in book that I reviewed, which is over here, New Lace Knitting by Romy Hill. Let me see, it has the print of the wave. I will post links to these in the show notes, but this one, the Crystal Bay. So yeah, that's an applied border, which is really pretty. The other one, and I have my other show notes in front of me on my computer, the Aisling by Justina Lorkowska. I'm probably butchering that, but that's another beautiful shawl. I know Danny from the Little Bobbins podcast knit that, and that was absolutely beautiful. And then there's Piper's Journey by Paula from the Knitting Pipeline podcast. She has a pattern out that has an applied border. And then there's one that I saw that looked really pretty. It's called this is French, and I promise you I'm going to butcher this. Isabel, if you were watching, I'm sorry. La Belle de Papillon, which papillon I know is butterfly in French. And it's by Christelle Nihul. I could be wrong. I could be mispronouncing that as well. But it has a very large knitted applied border. It's very wide. And of course, I will post links to these in the show notes. So I hope that helps. And yeah, so definitely give those patterns a try. They look really beautiful. I definitely want to cast some of those on this year. So yeah. Otherwise, but yes, if you have any questions that you would like me to answer on the podcast, please leave your questions in the YarnGasm Ravelry thread. There's a thread called Ask Away, and every week I will try and pick a couple questions out there and answer them for you guys. Sometimes I will just answer them in the thread if I think if it requires just a quick answer or something that I've already talked about on the podcast. I will just answer it directly right in there. Just FYI, but yeah, so tea is so good. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to move on to shop update. I wasn't, if you've been on my site recently, I know I put there's going to be a shop update Monday, but I've decided, only because Rhinebeck is coming up next weekend and there's not going to be any shop update that Friday. Usually it would have normally been on Friday, October 16th, but I will be at Rhinebeck, so no shop update. But there will be a shop update tomorrow Friday, October 9th at 2 p.m. as usual. So I am going to have a shop update, but then I'm also going to have another shop update or mini one on Wednesday, which is October 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So So a little bonus for you guys there. But yeah, let me show you what is going to be in the shop tomorrow. I will be dyeing up some more today, so there'll be a little bit more variety in there, but I will show you what I have right now. Of course, there will be some holiday colorways. There will be Holly Jolly and Deck the Halls on various bases. And then on popular demand, I have dyed up a lot of Outlander, so there will be Outlander on various bases. There will be some Royal Amber. This is pretty much the most popular autumnal colorway I'm dyeing right now. Everyone wants it, so I gotta dye it more. So I'm very excited about that. That makes me very happy, you guys, that you are excited about my yarn. So I'm happy to dye it if you are. So yeah, and then because this was supposed to be a one-of-a-kind colorway, but I really couldn't get it out of my mind, and I actually remembered the formula for it. But Sweet Dreams, I ended up dyeing up some more of it. I dyed it on Blitzed, I dyed it on Halo, I dyed it on Volca as well. So that will be available in the shop. So I'm very excited about that. And I just got some new lace bases in, or my lift base, which is a superwash merino and silk blend. So I'm very excited to start dyeing some of those. I think I'm going to save the lace until Wednesday when I do my other shop update next week. But yes, I will have some more of that on hand as well. And yeah, so definitely check out those podcasts. Definitely check out the shop update on Friday and then next Wednesday. I hope you can make it. And yeah, so I guess I'm going to move right along into Blather. Nothing, other than Rhinebeck, not much else going on. This past weekend was another relaxing weekend of knitting, except we did have a leak in the roof, which we had repaired. But yeah, we had our first it wasn't a major rainfall, but it was like a 3 days of straight solid rain, windy and gusty, and eventually our roof in our bedroom gave in, and there was just a line of water dripping, and needless to say, we had to have somebody come over and take a look at it. But yeah, so that's all taken care of. As I mentioned, this house is full of surprises. When we purchased it, it was just ripping apart at the seams, but we're saving it, I think. I'd like to think that we're saving it. And anyway, enough of that stuff. Let's talk about Rhinebeck. I'm excited about Rhinebeck. I'm busy. Today I've just been busy going back and forth with the other girls that I'm going to be hanging out with, planning logistics of the trip, scheduling, like what train we should take, or, car rentals and food and everything like that. So that's been a lot of fun. And then what am I excited about when it comes to Rhinebeck? Like, what do I want to buy? I'm trying to think. Well, there are two things I would love to just treat myself to when I go to Rhinebeck. And one of those is a Hanson e-spinner. Those look just so amazing and portable and wonderful, but oh my goodness, that would totally blow my budget for the year, I'm sure. So I don't know, I might have to put a hold on that, but I'm definitely going to give it a try. I know when I was at Gauge Intention, I tried Michelle's, and I love the way hers worked. And I've tried Kim's when she was visiting. I tried her e-spinner, and they just seem so fun, and they work really well. And yeah, I kind of want one for myself, because if me and Dennis ever go away on vacation, or I know when we go up to Cape Cod, there are times when I wish I had my wheel, and obviously I'm not going to take a wheel with me when we go up there. So I usually just bring a spindle, which is fine, but an e-spinner would be nice, yeah, so there's that. And then a Moosey I would love as well. Again, I tried Michelle Wong at Gauge Intention. I tried hers out, and it spins beautifully. It's by Bodsworth, and the Moosey is made by deer antlers. They shed them naturally, so they don't have to kill deer to get these antlers to make the spindles at all. They just naturally shed their antlers, and they make spindles out of them. So it's it's very earth friendly, I believe. So yeah, I might take a look at those. I definitely want to visit the Loop booth. I don't know, I just love Stephanie's bullseye bumps, and she's a great person as well. I know every time I see her at a festival, she probably has no idea who I am, but she knows, I'm sure she recognizes me, or because I visit her booth all the time, but I don't think she really knows I podcast or anything like that. But anyway, yeah, I every time I go to her booth, I totally fangirl over her in person, over her as a person, and just pretty much spend 45 minutes deciding which bullseye bump that I want to get, because yeah, she probably thinks I'm crazy. Like, she's seen me like just looking, deciding, pulling things off the shelf, putting them back. It's my own personal brand of crazy. So, and she's like, I told this to her, and she's like, oh, no, it's fine. Take your time. Take your time. So, Steph, if you're watching this, which you're probably not, it's going to happen again. I apologize in advance. But anyway, yeah, so otherwise, I'm trying to think who else I want to visit when I go to Rhinebeck. What other booths? Into the World, definitely. It'd be cool to see a whole bunch of, indie dyers or new to me dyers, or, fiber companies. I definitely want to try out some wheels, but, I have a budget set for myself. As I mentioned, this is my Disneyland, and I'm going to let myself go a little crazy, so I think it's okay to go a little, as long as I stick within my budget, everything will be fine, I think. So, yes. Anyway, I think that is it for this week. I'm going to try and podcast before Rhinebeck, but I can't make any promises, just because it's going to be a little bit of a busy week. But me, Laura, and if you remember last year, we did a whole post Rhinebeck podcast afterwards. It was with me, Laura, Maria, and Dana, and Kim, and goodness, who else was there? I feel like there was another person that I'm totally not mentioning, but I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. But we're going to do another joint podcast hopefully from Rhinebeck. That'll be a lot of fun. So I can't wait to do that again. And we're definitely going to Periscope. I cannot even begin to imagine how much Periscoping is going to be happening at Rhinebeck. It's just going to be off the wall. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think how good the phone signals are at Rhinebeck too. I think it's gotten better, but I recall a few years where there was just no phone signal whatsoever, and it was just really hard to get any kind of signal at all. But yeah, we're going to try and Periscope, so keep a lookout for that. But yeah, otherwise, I think that's it for this week. So happy knitting, and I will see you next time. Bye. La, 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 la.